over to your comments and questions.
Exactly. Well, before we open for comment and questions, I'd like just to add a few footnotes for what extremely wonderful presentation that Hushang has made. I would like, first of all, to introduce one subject that the issue is definitely since 1997, the election of Khatami, has essentially been a question of the concept of who is for Khamenei and who is against Khamenei. That is essentially. And so the debate in Iran about the republicanism and the Velayat Faqih, this is what it really was at stake. And one of the reasons that the reformists, I believe, in my opinion, that the reformists, particularly the left wing of the reformists, did an incredible disservice by so openly and sometimes so almost rudely attacking Khamenei. And not just Khamenei, but Khomeini. In fact, this is something that they themselves now in their writing are admitting. And even Ayatollah Karoubi, one of the so-called green leaders, during the last presidential election, said that during the 6 parliaments they made all these mistakes, and now they are wringing their hands what this has done. I truly believe, and Khatami himself in one place has said that the damage that was done to him by Saeed Hajjarian, Abbas Abdi, Akbar Ganji, who is now wining and dining with Angelina Jolie somewhere, really, that's true, his pictures and so on, that nobody had done. I believe that there was a real chance of reducing the leaders' influence and gradually reducing the conservatives' influence. But since the left wing of the reformists went for the jugular and challenged the very foundation of the Velayat Faqih, which meant the end of the Islamic Republic, then the conservatives came back. Now, what has happened since then? So therefore, one of the major divisions, I would say that the only division in Iran that means anything in terms of who actually has the power and control is essentially about who is for Velayat Faqih and who is not. Everybody after the collapse of the Green Movement, whether you want to say that 2009 election was stolen, which I do not believe that it was stolen. You look at Mousavi, Mousavi didn't have any charisma. Let's face it. And there's a lot of other independent, I know people get upset when one says that, but there's a lot of independent studies done. So some people may not like them, but if you read everything that Hillary and Flint Leverett have said and so on, that a lot of that, at least it is open to debate, that it is not as clear-cut that this is stolen, was election stolen. But anyway, be that as it may, so the issue has been who is for Khamenei and who is not. This is the main division. Now, everybody in Iran, whether it's the steadfastness group, whether it is the principalist groups, they all, please turn that off. They all say that we love, the leader. Nobody, including Ali Motahari, nobody can say that we don't love the leader, because if they say, then they become persona non grata. They cannot participate and those reformists, which always were the right wing of the reformists, was never, there is a Hajjarian group, and, which are the ex-leftist, ex-to the ex-this, ex-that. And then there was the others which were for milder reform. They are in the, like the party of Mardom Salari, the Democratic Party. So everybody accepts the very fact that we are all for the leader. And even Ahmadinejad, they cannot completely say that he is against the leader, because, that also would. Now, the question becomes the powers of the leader. What kind of powers the leader should have, whether and this is where Hushang's the thing about Mesbah Yazdi is completely correct, and others believe, whether leader's word is God's word and you can't say anything, or whether leader's word can be debated and so on. And that is, Ali Motahari who said that. The other thing I think in the elections we have to keep in mind that there are a lot of people running in this election that we don't hear about them. My own feeling is, and this is not just feeling, but a lot of it is feeling. In Iran, everything is whatever Germans say, that finger, whatever. Anyway, the fact is that Ali Motahari is also still candidate for Rafsanjani. And even within the principalists, there is a group that are actually pro-Rafsanjani. I mean, after all, Mahdavi, Kani, and Rafsanjani were bodies, and they still are bodies. So even though Rafsanjani is not what he was before, so you are going to see that. There are also other differences within the principalists on the issues of economic policy. So everything is not just about, what kind of... Everybody now also accepts in Iran the necessity of development. The Ahmadinejad of 2005, who said economics are for donkeys, now talks about building Iran. So I think that it is not that it is factions, that is true, but factions also represent ideas. Then there is a generational divide. The Paidari, the steadfastness, and Ahmadinejad himself and Abadgaran before, which came into existence in 1999 prior to the city council elections of Tehran, where it represents the middle age of the revolutionaries that were very young when the revolution happened, but after a while they felt that they haven't benefited from the spoils of the revolution. And in fact, if you read at what Ahmadinejad those days in 1999 and 2000 said, he said it's time that the older leadership should move aside and that the younger ones should come. So we see also a generational issue in it. The bottom line is that I think one thing we have to, in dealing with Iran, I think one debate is always, in my opinion, the wrong questions are posed. And as a result, instead of having an informed debate, we almost get into some kind of attack, and sometimes even attacking people, and even commentators attack one another, because the questions are posed wrongly. Is Iran democratic or not? Well, obviously, Iran is not democratic if you want to judge Iran by the standards of, for example, United States, and even though now with the role of money and so on, I have my own doubts in this country as well, or Britain or what have you. But does Iran have politics or not? That is what's important. Iran has politics, whereas Saudi Arabia doesn't have politics. King Abdullah and Prince Nayef, it is. And so within the politics, if you have politics, then you have to understand decision-making is more messy. There are different views on economics and so on and so forth. So a lot of the things in Iran that we say it is factionalism. I mean, if somebody was an Iranian looking at the U.S. Congress during the budget debate, I mean, talk about factionalism and putting personal desires ahead of the national interest, whether the U.S. government should shut down or our rating. So there is politics in Iran, and I think this is important. But in support of what Hushang was saying, and just this morning before coming, to the meeting, I read first for my sins. That's why I'm a masochist, an arch masochist. I read all these Iranian websites. I read a comment by a very prominent Iranian professor and scholar, a self-declared fan of the Green Movement and reformist, Sadegh Ziba-Kalam. Sadegh Ziba-Kalam, in a talk at at Tehran University with a bunch of students, he said that, and this is what I think people who say whether Iranians are going to rise up if we drop a bomb and so on, I think should keep in mind. And any reformist that's sitting abroad now and saying bomb Iran, that's why they did have no audience in Iran. Sadegh Ziba-Kalam said, we have to defend the system with our lives. Why? He doesn't care for Velayat Faqih. He doesn't care for Khomeini. Probably he was a leftist, a mild leftist, and, moved into that. He said, because if the regime falls, particularly under external pressure, he says, basically what he says, that the country would disintegrate. And this is what actually I think that, in support of Hushang, I want to say, this is what the U.S. policy since 1989 has done to Iran, in a way that even those people who hate Khamenei's guts feel that Khamenei and the Revolutionary Guards stand between Iran and the oblivion. This is the period. In 1979, people didn't have this feeling, which they should have, but they didn't. And also because you have to remember, then we had the Soviet Union. And now we don't. Nowadays, people talking about creative instability, or somebody called it kaleidoscopic view of Middle East, that shake it up and you will get a different vision.